John Martin painted 3 pictures to do with the Deluge. The first one, the Deluge, was painted in 1826, and it had this inscription to run with it. This representation of the universal inundation of the earth comprehends that portion of time when the valleys are supposed to be completely overflowed and the intermediate hills nearly overwhelmed, and the people who have escaped from drowning there are flying to the rocks and mountains for safety. This was exhibited at the British Exhibition. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. This is from Genesis, chapter 8, verse 12. 15 years later, he painted the eve of the Deluge, which was exhibited at the Academy in 1840, and then again at the British Institution in 1841. The Surging of the Waters was his third picture to do with the flood story. It was exhibited at the Academy again in 1840. John Martin produced a brochure to go with this, explaining his concepts of all 3 of the pictures. He writes, "In attempting to represent this great epoch of the world, I have found it impossible to express my conception of the subject in one single design. I have therefore, in order more fully to work out my ideas, given 3 scenes illustrating different periods of the event: the eve of the Deluge itself, and the surging of the waters after the Deluge. I have endeavoured to portray my imaginings of the antediluvian world, and to represent the near conjunction of the sun, moon, and a comet as one of the warning signs of the approaching doom. The many signs and portents have proclaimed a change at hand, and an overwhelming doom to perishable beings. Upon a rock in the foreground are some patriarchs and the family of Noah, anxiously gathered round Methuselah, who is supposed to have directed the opening of the scroll of his father Enoch, whilst agitated groups of figures, and one of the giants of those days, are hurrying to the spot where Noah displays the scroll, and Methuselah, having compared the portentous signs in the heavens with those represented on the scroll, at once perceives the fulfilment of the prophecy that the end is come, and resigns his soul to God. The scroll of Enoch prophesied it long in silent books, which in their silence say more to the mind than thunder to the ear. For the Deluge he wrote, "The time when the valleys are supposed to be completely overflowed, and the people are vainly flying to the mountains for safety, whilst others are seen crowding upon the rocky foreground where await man, beast, and bird their faithful doom. In the distance is the ark illumined amidst the general gloom by the last beams of the sun, and protected by the Omnipotent from the fury of the elements raging both above and below. The only part of the great waters which remains undisturbed, indicated by the horizontal line, being at the base of the rock which sustains the ark. To the right are the mountains bursting, or the fountains of the deep breaking open, the waters enclosing hills and plains in the vast waves, while horsemen and others plunge in wild despair from the rocks into the foaming deep. To the left, falling mountains, accompanied by vivid lightnings and foaming torrents, threaten instantaneous annihilation to the myriads of men and animals collected below in a vain attempt to escape from the rising of the waters. Nearer is an immense cavern into which the multitudes are flying in their hopeless search for safety from the falling mountains. But they are forced back by those who have already sought shelter in the interior, and rushing forth again to escape destruction from the subterranean waters newly breaking forth. The surging of the waters, John Martin wrote this about it. In this picture I have chosen that period after the Deluge, when I suppose the sun to have first burst forth over the broad expanse of waters, gently rippled by the breeze which is blowing the storm clouds seaward. In the distance is the ark in the full flood of sunlight. The direction of the land is indicated by the tops of mountains which were beginning to appear. A serpent, the first tempter to sin, and therefore the original cause of the Deluge, is circled, drowned round the branch upon which is the raven sent by Noah.